Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining us around the world. Give it a few more minutes. I can still see some people attempting to get in via the waiting room and everything else, and probably still, I mean, for me, afternoon tea. Very British of me, I know. But yeah, probably getting their drinks, their coffees, whatever it be. So give it just a few more minutes, and then we'll get started. A little bit of housekeeping whilst we wait, I suppose. Yes, you will receive a copy of the recording afterwards. It'll also be available on demand on the HYCU website. So if you did miss it or you need to step away briefly, you'll be able to catch up. Also, be able to send it to any colleagues or customers or partners or anyone else you'd like to send it to catch up. Feel free to ask questions in the Q&A or the chat function. I'm not exactly sure which one's operational. Probably the Q&A, I would imagine. So yeah, please put your questions in there. I'm happy to answer any questions as to the best of my ability as we go through. Um, so yeah, I can still see a few people trickling in, but I'll give it one more minute and then we will get started. And I can finally say that summer has arrived in the UK. It's a very sunny day for once. So it's a bit hot in this room. So I'm my water and everything, so I'm ready to go. So perfect. I can still see people trickling in, but what we'll do is we'll get started and the latecomers can kind of catch up because I'm conscious of everyone's time, making sure we finish on time and potentially even give some time back to people if required as well. So yeah, so welcome to this webinar. So this is the Purpose Built for Nutanix series. So this is the 5 reasons you need purpose-built data protection for Nutanix. So that's what we're going to be covering today. My name is Chris Rogers. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at HYCU. I probably look after our Nutanix, Dell, and our hybrid cloud solutions, so Azure Local, all those types of things that happen on-premise VMware, etc. as well. So briefly, I wanted to kind of discuss what HYCU's mission is. And our mission is to build a safer world through universal data protection. Essentially, what does that mean? Well, going out and protecting as much data as we possibly can in every single organization, right? That's the idea of what's behind us. Not just siloed data of just this, just that. Going out and providing a real platform and a real capability to go out and protect every single piece of data that's out there. Obviously, we can't do it right today, but actually we're building that incredibly quickly and really going out and getting into places where people don't normally go, right? And that's kind of essentially where we started. We started with Nutanix where no one else was, right? And I'll run through the history briefly in a bit around that. But if in case you don't know who HYCU are, or you're relatively new to data protection, so we're not a startup in this industry. We've been around for quite a while now. We got I think it's actually over 5,000 customers, or if not approaching 5,000 customers protected using HYCU software now across 78. I think it might even be closer to 80 countries now. 440 plus channel partners all across the globe. So you can see that we're not a startup in this game. It's something we've been doing a long time, and a lot of organizations trust us with their most critical data assets. And then if we look at some industry recognition for us, we have one of the highest net promoter scores in the industry. We were recognized as a visionary in the Magic Quadrant for a third year running. Last year we were Google Cloud's Partner of the Year, and we were named a leader in the GigaOM Cloud Native Data Protection Report as well. And then you look at some of the customers who do trust us worldwide. Enterprises and governments worldwide do trust us. Some of the biggest names in there, from Broadcom through to United States Army, through to Toshiba. Some of these organizations are trusting HYCU with their Nutanix estate to protect their data because they believe HYCU is the best way to protect Nutanix data. So unfortunately, what we have is a bit of paradigm, right? Your organization cannot afford retrofitted data protection for Nutanix. And here's some of the reasons why, right? So most other data protection vendors, if not all other data protection vendors, were designed for VMware or various other platforms. So, Unix or Windows or whatever it might have been, and then retrofitted and then kind of patchwork and bolted and twisted and, reshaped to try and fit Nutanix. It wasn't purpose built from Nutanix from the ground up. So they've got a lot of that legacy, that debt, that stuff of, oh, this is how we did it for X platform, so we'll take the same approach for Nutanix. But Nutanix is a completely different way of working than most other hypervisors or other platforms out in the marketplace. So we need to make sure we take that into account when we think about data protection, how that is purpose built for Nutanix rather than hindering it. If you find some quotes from Nutanix, they're not in this slide deck, unfortunately. I didn't have time to put them in and space in the webinar. But there's loads of different quotes from Nutanix people saying, fundamentally how we manage data and how we do data protection, everything else needs to be different because of the way Nutanix stores processes and has their HCI stack. It does need to be different. And actually, if you're not doing it the correct way, you can actually hinder performance and hinder um, production systems by not doing data protection correctly. Quite often, we'll find that legacy providers are slow to deploy, they're slow to scale, and also slow to recover, or even hard to recover, or sometimes can't recover the data you need. And they require either an army to manage, or they have a very high TCO, or they require lots and lots of people with always on hands-on approach to management, patching, etc. It just becomes very difficult to do. And that's some of the problems. We're going to go through some of the other ones in a bit. But I'm going to go through the 5 reasons why data, a purpose-built Nutanix data protection solution, is the number one reason, or is the number one thing you need to think about. So 5 reasons as to why. So the first one I'm going to talk about is integration and coverage. So I'm relatively new to HYCU, so I joined in October last year. So I don't know what that is, like 7 months, something like 8 months. So when we look at, and I looked at the estate, I came from like a VMware background and data protection from a VMware background. So I didn't really know a huge amount about Nutanix. And when I started learning, I realized it was far bigger than just virtual machines. I realized there was this whole data estate and all these applications and there's other data sets that are in this Nutanix ecosystem, far beyond just VMs and AHV. And that really shocked me. And I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. I can understand how this HCI model works and understand all these different workloads now. And unfortunately, again, most people will potentially think of Nutanix as just virtual machines, which is only a subset of the data that actually sits in a Nutanix platform. So what we did is we actually pioneered the Nutanix data protection industry. We were there before anyone else. We saw this up and coming young startup, which is hard to believe with Nutanix now, with this global behemoth they are now. But we saw this player in the industry really liked what they were doing and decided to build a data protection solution purpose built for Nutanix. So we were the first to build data protection for AHV with rapid restore, remote office and branch offices. We were then the first to build data protection for files, volume groups, buckets. We were the first data protection vendor to be included in Nutanix Mine, their purpose-built data protection platform. We were then also the first to run ESX on top of Nutanix. We were the first to do objects, so Nutanix objects with object lock and worm. We were the first to then do AHV snapshot backups, Nutanix Kubernetes engine, or NKP as they call it now. And then we were first to do Nutanix incremental files backup. And that was actually a co-developed API that HYCU engineers and Nutanix engineers built together. And they were first to deliver Nutanix database service as well. So what that kind of gives us is, yes, we were first, but we're also best in the marketplace. We've consistently been aligned to Nutanix's roadmap from the start. And you can count on us to be aligned with that roadmap moving forward. We've got multiple validated designs and blueprints. So you can go onto Nutanix website, see exactly how to deploy us, how simple it is, how easy it is to integrate. We have a committed joint roadmap with Nutanix. So wherever they go, we are committed to follow them. So whatever comes next in their ecosystem, whether it's AI workloads or whatever else comes next into their Nutanix ecosystem, HYCU will be there alongside Nutanix to help develop if need be, but also support the data sets in there. That is not only future-proofing yourself from a data protection point of view, but future-proofing your Nutanix investment. If you've moved recently in the last few years, potentially, and then you've got another few years where you've got a renewal coming up, you can know that if you pair HYCU and Nutanix together, that investment you make in that joint partnership is going to be a future-proof thing. We're not a flash in the pan who have reacted to market changing in the last 2 or 3 years in the hypervisor market. We haven't invested in the last 2 years because of that happening. We've been investing from the start with Nutanix and will continue to invest along that journey, no matter what comes along. Nutanix is in HYCU's DNA. And that's where we are in the past. But now we protect the present, and now we forge the future. So I said we have the widest coverage with the deepest integration into Nutanix data. So therefore, we are the ultimate Nutanix data protection solution. So on the screen here, you can see all the ways that you can integrate and protect data with Nutanix. AHV is one of those things you see on the screen. But with Prism Central, Nutanix databases, files, Nutanix Kubernetes platform, volume groups, objects, NC2, Metro clusters, Robo clusters, Nutanix Frame, the Calm, Mine. You can see all these different ways of protecting and integrating with Nutanix is unique to HYCU in this marketplace. No one else has the breadth or the coverage that we have for Nutanix data protection. So the second piece I want to cover is simplicity. So this one's always tricky because I always think simplicity. I love to say this was a real this is a a philosophy quote from Plato or someone. No, this is me. I find simplicity can be hard to measure. It's really hard. You can't put a. I'm a bit of a tech guy at heart. I like to go, okay, how much more is it? How much more simple can it be? Like it's really hard to put a percentage or a measurement or a scale on simplicity. But what I've done is I've built out some key facts to help you understand how simple HYCU is compared to others in the marketplace. So this is simplicity measured, and I hope this kind of makes sense to everyone. And if not, feel free to add your comments into the into the chat, and we can or a cute question to me for me to clarify, and we can talk about it as well. So the amount of books published on how to design and use HYCU is zero. So in the last 8 years that we've been in business protecting some of the biggest businesses in the world's data protection, no one has decided that our solution is complex or needs a book or someone needs additional help outside of what we have internally. If you went onto Amazon and looked at any of our competitors, some of them have third-party books written about them. Some have one, some have five, some have 10, right? On how to design, architect, implement, and administer their solution. That's outside of also what documentation they have as well, right? So someone's thought, okay, their solution is relatively complex. I need to write a book about it and get it published for other people to know about the knowledge that I have about it, right? So, you can see how simple it is because no one's ever thought about doing that. No one's gone, okay, I need more information from HYCU. I need to make sure the information I have is distributed across the world because it's very simple to use, very easy to understand. So there's no need for one. And the second one is training. So HYCU has one self-paced training course that takes less than a few hours to complete. So you can master that without any specialist instructor or any classrooms or, codes or payment required. It's super, super easy. We trust everyone to do it self-paced because it's incredibly simple to do. You can master HYCU in less than a few hours, get fully certified, and away you go. Whereas if you look in the marketplace, it's typical for them to have 3 or 5 day courses with an instructor in the room for you to kind of build your skills and understand because they've got complex things that need to be taught by someone who understands them really deeply. Whereas again, we've taken all that complexity away, built it into the product and built that simplicity engine on front to make it super easy. So people don't need heavy investment in training and to become, this guru, this master. It's very easy to do, very easy to understand. The fact that we don't need any PS, we don't really have a PS engagement massively. Some of our partners help install and help set up things because some customers prefer that engagement. We do have that available, but for the vast majority of customers I see, they can just do it themselves. It's incredibly simple. They deploy a single appliance and away they go. There's no real need to design, need to architect it over the top. And typically, it's the shortest company I've seen for POCs. We put it in and 45 minutes later we can have stuff protected really easily into the cloud or back on premises wherever they need to go. It's incredibly easy. So you don't need any of that, detailed expertise to even set up the product. We have a real modern interface. And actually, HYCU was purpose built to look and feel like Nutanix Prism, therefore shortening that learning curve for people who are in the Nutanix ecosystem. So if you're used to administering Nutanix in Prism, HYCU looks and feels exactly the same. And we did that on purpose so people have familiarity with it and understood where menus would be, what when they click on here, what would it load in this screen here. So they understand the workflows and how things would work. So when they're flicking between the two, they kind of feel the same. There's no learning curve. There's no, oh, this looks completely different. I need to learn exactly how to use this. It's very intuitive, very easy to use. So if you understand Prism, you'll understand HYCU very easily as well. And the last one is the number of components that we need to protect Nutanix. And that is one. We need one virtual appliance to protect your Nutanix environment. I don't think it could be any simpler than that. You don't have to buy hardware from a different vendor. You don't have to, do anything like that. Like you essentially download the software from our site. You build it on you put it on. You not even put it on a VM. You actually build a VM from our image that we give you. So no OS to install, no packages to deploy. It's a single virtual appliance. You put into your estate. It's obviously purpose built for Nutanix, so it works straight out of the box. Away it goes, and from there we automatically get to discover all your data, suck it in, and you can protect with a few clicks. That's incredibly simple. So I like this zero design principle. I don't have to think about how many gateways or proxies or agents I need to deploy or how I'm going to deploy them. All those types of things. It's put it in, away it goes. And the idea about simplicity is not just for simplicity's sake, right? I can make something incredibly complex, relatively simple by, breaking it down into about 500 different steps, right? If I want to drive from my house in London up to Scotland, I could do that with 500 steps that are all relatively simple. It doesn't make that task any simpler. All it does is break them down into easier steps. But actually, what we do at HYCU is intelligent simplicity. So, kind of removing that backup fatigue that people have. So, we're 100% policy driven. So that means there's no schedules, no jobs, no overheads to do. So we don't have a policy that then you assign to a VM, then you assign to a schedule, and then you have to schedule that job, or assign to a job, sorry, and then schedule the job. Essentially, you give us the information you want. So you give us the RPOs, the RTOs, everything else in the policy assigned to VM, and we do everything else for you. We schedule it, we make sure it runs, we tell you if it didn't run or tell if there's a problem in real time. Everything is set and forget. And that singular policy contains backup, DRM replicas, archiving, data validation to make sure your backups are complete and working, anomaly detection. So if anything's going strange things are happening in your backups, you'll know about it in that policy as well. Instant restore, tagging. So if you have a Nutanix categories and you want to tag production, dev, you know, accounting, HR, etc., you can do that. Give them different SLAs and different policies from there. And loads and loads more. I can't put every single thing that we can do in our policy on there, but you can understand from here, if you're doing a backup DR, cyber resilience, and data validation, that's a one policy. Where in other tools, you're going to have a backup policy, a DR policy, a backup copy, an archive policy, a validation policy that runs separately. Anomaly detection is going to be separate to that. And then how you do all the rest of things is probably going to be manual scripting or other ways. Whereas this is all built into a single policy. And again, that no data is left unprotected by assigning a default policy. So I mentioned before we automatically discover that estate. That essentially means if you set a default policy, anytime anyone adds a VM, if it hasn't got a tag that we assign it to a preset policy, we assign it to the default policy. And that way, no data goes unprotected. No VMs or volume groups or anything else that we protect in HYCU will then go unprotected. That's a really, really great place to be, to know as a backup admin or a director of IT or even a CTO or a CISO to go, I know that whoever creates what, no matter what happens, there's always a catch-all policy that will protect my data on this RPO, RTO landscape. That means no data is ever going to go unprotected. There's never going to be a point where someone says, oh, something happened to this VM, this file, this volume group, whatever it may be. Can you get it back? And someone says no. It'll always be yes, we can get it back. But it was from last night. Is that okay? Because you didn't assign your tag properly, or you didn't tell the guys this is what the RPO RTO is. So we assigned the default to the company, which was 1 day, for instance. But we can still get the data back for you. The easy automation piece. So there's no manual effort. As I mentioned before, we automatically assign using Nutanix categories. We can automatically find, identify applications within your estate, within your virtual machines, with automated agentless discovery. Everything we do, we're going to go on to this in a little bit as well, but everything we do at HYCU is completely agentless. There's no agents involved at all. So we can go out and find Microsoft SQL, Exchange, Active Directory, Oracle, those types of applications, discover them, bring them back into the Prism-like UI, and then you can then tailor your protection based on those policies, what we found. So we're not just backing up a VM thinking it's just an app VM, or actually it's a SQL VM, so it needs a little bit more care. It needs to have logs truncated, for instance, or it needs to have this done on it, or whatever it may be, right? So you can kind of see what we've discovered and then tailor your protection based on what's been discovered. You don't have to know exactly what's been put on a VM. In your CMDB, for instance, things get mixed up, things don't get logged properly, so we'll automatically go and find those for you. And then extensibility for all applications with pre and post backup tasks. At HYCU, we'd like to provide a platform that integrates with every single application that anyone has in the world. It's not easy to do that, right? So, for instance, for doing a restore or doing something, you want to update your CMDB or you want to update an IPAM database or something like that, right? Whatever it may be, we have pre and post backup tasks, so you can essentially trigger those on a pre or a post backup, and that's going to do whatever it needs to do. That might be logging a ticket, that might be informing someone. It could be anything, right? It could be anything you want to do, but essentially that gives us the extensibility to plug into whatever applications, whatever seams or orchestration systems you want to plug into. And then we have easy alerting and reporting. So visualize your data with an easy, detailed reporting engine. Again, this is all built into the same virtual appliance. There's no need to deploy anything extra for our reporting engine. It comes as part of the package. We give you pre-made compliance reporting, for instance, say, do all of my VMs meet my RPO and RTO requirements defined in my single policy? Yes or no? Or these ones do and these ones don't. And then if anything changes, we'll instantly alert you in real time wherever you need them. So that can be into Slack, into Teams, into ServiceNow, into anywhere that accepts a webhook, essentially. That could be an email. It could be anywhere you want it to. The idea here is we're making things incredibly simple, incredibly easy to use to make sure data protection just happens. It's not an erroneous task. It's not something that takes too much time away from administrative teams. It's making it super simple, super easy to use, making sure data is protected always. So the third point I want to cover is security, one of the biggest topics in the world, rightly so. Um, Unfortunately, legacy backups do introduce risks and a larger attack surface. So if we look at a typical deployment here from, one of the market leaders or whoever else it might be, right? Backup server, and we deploy some agents. We might have some additional hardware we need to deploy. We then got proxy servers. We then got gateways, backup repositories, etc. So all these different components need to be deployed, maintained. They're potentially all on different operating systems, potentially all different sizes, living in different places on different storage, etc. They're all easy to find on the network and they're very chatty. So everything chats to each other, right? So if I have managed to gain access as a bad actor, I can hop from an agent through to a backup server, look at where it's going to the proxy server, figure out where the gateway is, look at where the backup repository is. So all these things make it easy to do. Because there's so many different components on so many different operating systems, there's so many different libraries and softwares attached to them. There's such a high chance of CVEs. And if you look in the marketplace, you will see so many different backup providers having very critical CVEs very, very recently as well. It is a secure your own OS typically in these environments. So bring your own OS, so bring Windows or Linux, and then secure it for your own good. And if you don't do it hard enough, well, that's not their fault. You haven't secured your OS. That's not the case with HYCU. Every virtual appliance comes pre-hardened. When there's more components, there's more mistakes. There's more mistakes for patching, maintenance, upgrades, etc. So if you've got 15 things to upgrade rather than one, it takes longer. Things get missed, things don't get done properly. You can't get it all done in Patch Tuesday, so you wait till the next, you wait till the next week, and then you've got a vulnerability potentially open for a whole week because you just haven't had time to do it right. So when there are more components, there are more mistakes. That's kind of a general rule of thumb, right? If there's more things to manage, occasionally people drop the ball. We're all human after all. I've been a sysadmin. I've definitely done it in the past. And then the HYCU way. So as I mentioned before, that zero design architecture, no agents, no hardware, no backdoors, purpose-built backup using native APIs into Nutanix only. We secure and isolate your network traffic with your backup traffic, and so your management traffic with your backup traffic. So again, even if someone managed to get into the management plane, they don't see anything that's happening on the backup level. And we also have posture management for our backups as well. So if you're storing data in, let's say, an S3 bucket, and suddenly that S3 bucket is, or not even suddenly, if that S3 bucket was configured with like public access, for instance, HYCU would then alert you and say, oh, by the way, guys, your backup data has got public access. Or if it wasn't configured and then it changed, that's where that continuous management is, or that posture management is coming on. We notice the change and then tell you that something's changed. So, for instance, a bad actor is in your environment and is trying to change things so they can get public access to the backup files, for instance. We can tell you that, oh, by the way, this used to be not public and now it is public. Something you need to look at, right? As I mentioned before, we have that hardened Linux appliance. So yes, everything comes pre-hardened out of the box from HYCU. And this is military grade and battle tested. Pretty much all of the three layer agencies around in USA use us to protect their data. We're the only data protection vendor in the world to have a DISA STIG, and we have common criteria. We've recently got SOC certification as well. And we're the only data protection vendor to protect Nutanix VMs with the virtual trusted platform module as well. So you can see we take security incredibly seriously at HYCU, and it's built into everything we do. I haven't got time to cover it on this particular webinar, but if you are interested in the other things we do around security and cyber resilience, we do have loads of webinars. So if you go onto HYCU.com and look at the resources, you'll see anything with RShield. So we launched that maybe a month or 6 weeks ago. There's lots and lots of information, lots of webinars and things we did around things like malware scanning and anomaly detection and SaaS data export, all those types of things. So loads of things on cyber resilience in RShield. Haven't got time to cover it in detail today, but you can understand. I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's loads out there. So if you go to HYCU.com, you'll be able to find all that information on RShield. The fourth one I want to cover is TCO. This is incredibly important because all the stuff about technical stuff about, all that kind of stuff is great, and security is really important, and et cetera, et cetera. But really, when it comes down to it, a lot of organizations choose their applications based on all of the things I've already mentioned, but also on how much it costs, right? If it costs 5x, even if it's the best product in the world, it probably isn't going to get past the CFO. It's probably not going to go, oh, it used to cost $100,000 for 3 years, and now it costs $500,000 for 3 years. Okay, where's the benefit? It's going to be very difficult to provide that benefit back to those key stakeholders if it costs too much, right? So here at HYCU, we decide that we want to give a low TCO. We've designed that in mind. So if we talk about a typical architecture, so we've mentioned this before in a little way. So we're going to add some backup servers. We're going to start adding some proxy servers in. We're going to start adding some gateways and some reporting servers and some mount servers, and then a central backup manager to manage everything. And then we're going to start putting in some agents on all of our VMs. So suddenly, all those VMs that we had running, we can't run anymore because we have to provide more resources for these components to run, right? So there's less VMs we can run for production. Each side of every VM, we have to give it a bit more memory and a bit more CPU because these agents are running constantly. So every single VM has to be slightly upsized, even if it's 1 or 2% across a large estate. That all adds up, right? So it's highly complex to design and deploy and manage. We've kind of spoken about that already. Like, it takes a long time to do. It siphons those production resources away from valuable VMs. Those production VMs are your crown jewels. They're the ones that make you the money or provide the service you're providing to your customers. Without those VMs running, your company doesn't exist. There's no backups to run. So we need to make sure that in this instance, you'd have to buy a bigger environment to make sure your backups could even run. Seems a bit counterintuitive that you've got to buy more production resources to run backup. It seems relatively counterintuitive to me. Challenging to size and scale, not just from an initial point of view, but then what happens if your requirements change? Which one of these components on the screen do I need to upsize? Which one do I need to add more of? Which one do I need to reduce if I want to reduce my footprint? You see, it becomes incredibly difficult to say, I need more proxies, or I need bigger proxies. I need more agents. I need less agents. I need more mount servers, less mount servers. You can kind of understand it becomes incredibly difficult to understand what I need to do. You can go back to your PS engagement and say, "Yep, no worries. Hey, let me come in and help you. Let's see where the bottlenecks are." Right? Again, all chargeable services. Right? Yeah, we can do that. It's incredibly difficult. And then you've then got a difficult to use UI, managing with several different products, several different places just to report, protect, and recover a VM. Doesn't seem intuitive anymore. And all of this increases cyber risks and could potentially bring in performance issues to your environment as well. And then I want to show you how HYCU R Cloud does it. So again, the purpose-built data protection for your Nutanix estate. So all these components on the screen that we mentioned previously, we suck all of those agents out. Again, agentless architecture. We take all of the other components out, put it into our single virtual appliance, and deploy that one virtual appliance onto your estate. That's the HYCU way. So we have a lower TCO. So when we've done calculations, about 3 to 4 times less production resources than competitors out there, less time and less people needed to administer it as well. It was faster to deploy, faster to protect, faster to recover, easier to manage as well. So you go from being able to deploy HYCU and protecting workloads and recover workloads in less than an hour. Incredibly easy to do. We're incredibly lightweight. No agents, no proxies. There's no impact to any of the workloads we give. And then if we get instant protection for those workloads as well. An unlimited scale. So I like to think of HYCU as like the shipping container of the data protection world. We've developed something which is purpose built for its purpose. So like a shipping container, it's not great for anything else. Maybe I see people convert them into swimming pools and stuff, but essentially it was built to ship things around the world incredibly efficiently. And when they want to scale, you either buy a slightly bigger one, or if you don't want a slightly bigger one, you add another one. But exactly the same thing. You don't go out and buy a different thing or a slightly different version of it. You just buy exactly the same thing. You buy another shipping container because guess what? They're uniform. They do exactly what they need to do. That's exactly the same way the HYCU works. If you need more, you could get a slightly bigger one if you wanted to. Or if you want to run extreme scale where you've got distributed workloads around the world, you can just add more of the same component and all underarching under a single manager as well. And the last piece I want to cover is customer satisfaction. So I mentioned earlier, if anyone's eagle-eyed, I did cover this earlier in the slide in one slide. But when I talk about customer satisfaction, this is the kind of stat I want to put out there. So we have a net promoter score of 91. So if you look at the industry, especially data protection, you won't find an NPS score as high as 91. You'll see blogs and other various activity from other vendors out there promoting how great their NPS score is, that's somewhere in the 70s, right? To get a 70 is difficult, right? To get a 90 is incredibly, incredibly hard because anything other than a 9 or a 10 in net promoter score doesn't get you anywhere near that. So every one of our customers who respond, who give us this score, have to give us at least a 9 or a 10 out of 10 to get us anywhere near this score. A 7, 8, 9, or sorry, a 7 or an 8 doesn't cut it, right? They're just neutral. They don't boost us. So we give the best customer experiences out there. I want to make sure this is clear. NPS is not a support metric, right? So we don't measure just our support tickets on NPS. This is all of our customers from inception, from sales, through to support is included, to customer success, through to offboarding, through to billing, all everything is under the customer satisfaction, that NPS score, not just support, right? And that's one thing that people get confused about is that we at HYCU we don't offer just support. Well, obviously we have a 24/7 support team that if you have an error code, you can log a ticket and get that fixed. But what we also have is dedicated customer success engineers. And what does that mean? Well, customer success is, well, I'm sure someone who's in customer success might define it slightly differently. The way I see it from a very dumbed down point of view for myself is I've bought a product, or say I've purchased HYCU to deliver these business goals. That customer success engineer is going to sit with the customer and make sure the product is set up, working, so that customer can say, yes, I have bought HYCU to meet these business goals and it is meeting these business goals. I am having less downtime. It is saving me money because it's not draining production resource. It is saving me time because my team can now focus on more strategic things rather than just whether the backups are run or not, right? This is what I mean by customer success, not just my ticket was resolved in an hour versus an hour and 20. It's is HYCU fundamentally doing the job it was bought to do and doing it well and delivering on those outcomes that we promised, during our sales pitch and during the implementation, right? And the last thing for customer satisfaction I want to put out there is that Nutanix themselves actually are a happy paying customer of HYCU. They have been for a very long time, gone through various different renewals with us. So if there was a better, more integrated, faster, more secure, better customer satisfaction, better customer experience out there for Nutanix infrastructure, Nutanix themselves would choose that instead. They don't. They continue to choose HYCU to protect their own infrastructure. And that's the biggest testament I can give to HYCU is that Nutanix themselves are a paying customer of HYCU. And I just wanted to introduce you to the HYCU promise. So backup operations will take significantly less time. You will free up critical resources. You will recover faster. You can count on HYCU to stay aligned to Nutanix and their roadmap wherever they go. And you can protect all critical applications and data, not just your virtual machines. And we're going to do that all whilst giving you the best possible customer experience in the marketplace. So hopefully that kind of sums up the 5 reasons why you need dedicated, purpose-built data protection for your Nutanix environment. So some next steps. I'll leave this on the screen. So if anyone wants to scan the QR codes, I'll leave it on the screen for a few more minutes. The next slide just says any questions, but I'll say if there's any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll happy to answer them. I'll leave this screen up rather than the questions page just because it makes more sense because people can scan the QR code. So I'll go through these one by one so people know what they're scanning. So the first one is a solution brief. So it's a relatively detailed the way of how Nutanix and HYCU integrate and how we deploy and how we work, etc. The second one is a data sheet, is an overview, HYCU for Nutanix, what do we do, how do we do it, etc. But in a kind of a 2-page format. We then have a data sheet for cyber resilience for Nutanix workloads. So that'd be more interesting in that security piece that I mentioned earlier. We then have a cyber resilience checklist. So if you are a Nutanix sysadmin or you look after teams, this would be a great cyber resilience checklist for you guys to make sure you're checking every single box for Nutanix cyber resilience. And if you like everything that I've said or you're intrigued to find out more, you can request a demo for yourself. So try it out in your own environment, play with it, feel it, touch it, break it, fix it, whatever you want to do with it. So you can request a demo, and actually get hold of the software yourself if you want to. So that can be a demo with one of our experts to kind of guide you through and feel and see kind of the how it works and how it looks and how it does. Or you can also then download it for yourself in a free trial and put it in your own environment and play with it and test it yourself. Right, so let me see if there's any questions that have come up. Uh, let's see, we've got a couple. So the first one being, how is HYCU licensed? Okay, we get that one a lot. It kind of depends on the workload, but for Nutanix, we do it in well, for Nutanix VMs, it's very simple. It's a per VM basis, 10 VMs, 10 licenses, very very easy to do. For files, so with Nutanix files and Nutanix objects, it's on a per terabyte basis. So if you have 10 terabytes of Nutanix files, it's 10 terabytes times license cost, right? Um, you can buy an all-encompassing license for everything in Nutanix, and you can then also license by core. So if you have Nutanix files, Nutanix objects, AHV, NKP, all these things on top of it, you can license your whole platform to protect everything on a per core basis as well. Which again is another differentiator in the marketplace because a lot of people have gone away from core licensing because it becomes maybe slightly more efficient or slightly better for those organizations to do that. But we're flexible. You tell us which way you want to license it, and you can do that either way. Um, and also one thing is all the kind of the features and everything that I've told you about today, they're all included in the price. There's no additional SKUs or add-ons or bolt-ons. You buy HYCU Premium Edition, and you get all these things, so including the ransomware scanners, the anomaly detection, instant restores, all those types of things I've been speaking about. They will come part of the price as well. One more question. Have we got any more questions? Oh no, it's been removed. Okay. I'll give anyone if they want to a couple more minutes just to answer any questions. But if I don't see anything come through in the next few minutes, we'll end the webinar. So I can't see any more coming in. So what we'll do is I'll say thank you to everyone. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you can reach me, chris.rogers@hycu.com, or go onto our website. There's loads of places where you can get hold of someone. We have a live chat function as well on the website. You can get through to a specialist straight away and chat with someone as well. So if you have any questions, you'll find us everywhere you normally find us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention, and we'll see you on the next one.